Welcome back to The Average. Today we are diving into one of my favorite movies from 2018. So this is Tim.
This is Bryce.
Here we go. Okay.
Welcome back to the Revisited series.
Well, we never actually did an official score on this, even though most of us watched it years ago.
Basically. How old is this movie?
This movie's from 2018.
Is it really?
Yes.
I didn't even know. I thought this was like 2020, like 2021 maybe.
No, this is 2018. This is my favorite like non-franchise film from 2018. Wow. 2018 was marked by Avengers, Black Panther, movies like that. Ugh. So if that takes you back a second, this is my favorite, and we're gonna have a fun time with this one because it was not real high on some people's score lists and pretty high on some others.
I hope the viewers are used to your passive aggressiveness like I am at this point because, man, you just don't hold back, do you?
I don't. I'm passionate about movies.
Well, why don't you introduce the movie and give us a quick summary and some thoughts before we jump in.
The movie we are talking about is Bad Times at the El Royale, a neo-noir thriller written, directed, and produced by Drew Goddard.
That's right. Yep, Drew Goddard.
You know who that is?
I know the name. I'm not like making the connection.
He has done one other movie, and it is also fantastic. Cabin in the Woods.
Really?
Yeah.
I totally forgot he made. I love Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah. So fantastic film. So the movie from Drew Goddard stars Jeff Bridges, Cynthia Erivo, Dakota Johnson, John Hamm, Kaylee Spaney, Lewis Pullman, and Chris Hemsworth, which is actually why I was drawn to the movie because of the success.
Yeah, I remember
the success
that.
of the Avengers films. That's what brought me in. So the premise of the movie, I
like how you're like really thinking about
how to explain this premise. This is a formerly super successful casino. Like this was a hotspot hotel that sits partially on the California.
It was more of like, as they said in the movie, the best kept secrets. Yeah, as a motel, whatever.
I think they said Frank Sinatra once sang there, sang a song about it. Like,
it was a very like top secret, but also super popular hotel.
It was the place to be in like the 50s.
It's on the borderline of Nevada and California, and plays into the aesthetic very well.
Yes, half of the rooms are in Nevada, and half of it is in California.
Yep.
And the lobby sits on both of those, so the lobby is actually divided right down the middle to kind of a California aesthetic and a Nevada aesthetic.
There's a red line that literally splits the two, and it's super cool.
Yep. So the premise is this hotel's like on the outs. You can tell it used to be something because it is lushly decorated. It looks great, but there's nobody there. Mm-hmm. And this movie opens with
it opens very Quentin Tarantino-esque.
Well,
getting to know your characters one by one.
Well, yeah. So it opens with all of a sudden there are like 4 people needing rooms.
Yeah.
And they're just having a conversation and nobody can be found. And so throughout the movie, we kind of learn each person's story, how that ends up intertwining at the end, and then arriving to our conclusion.
Totally.
That's the premise.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how much else to tell you until we dive into this a little bit more.
Shall we?
So I'm going to let you start.
I would love to. Thank you for...
You should be on the defensive.
I am the defense attorney for this episode. This is going to get wild, so hold on to your butts. Name that movie quote. Anyway, so we actually have some viewer quotes also. I watched this recently, literally really recently with my wife, Megan. And so I'm going to be reading her score as along with mine. We'll just kind of rapidly let you know what their score was and then just give our score and some thoughts on it. So me and Megan are on the defense today, and Tim has three reviewers, correct, with yours?
3 other reviewers.
So 3 other reviewers. This was fun. We got a lot of reviews for this one. So I'll kick us off. First on the list is story, correct? So Megan gave the story a 1 out of 5. I gave mine a 3 out of 5. So
I don't understand the 1.
Listen, my wife has tastes.
She
may not agree with it.
But no, Megan and I normally do agree. That's why it kind of surprises me.
Really? Do you agree often?
Yeah.
Maybe you do. Yeah, maybe I think you're thinking of specific stuff. I'm not really. Yeah.
Okay, so defend your 3.
I would love to. So yeah, Tim kind of gave a good synopsis of the story there. It's basically I don't want to say, it's not really, it's more of just a unraveling of like these stories and how we all got here. Stuff happens, how do we deal with it? And then it kind of like ties up at the end and brings all of them semi together. I'm having trouble kind of like explaining all that because that's kind of how I felt about this movie and the way the story weaves together personally.
This movie is old enough and didn't have that big of an impact.
It didn't. The marketing was phenomenal, but
we're gonna go full spoilers on this one because
thank you for
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, basically, yeah, you get a bunch of these people at this hotel, and you start learning their backstory really, and then you kind of see how it kind of feels you in the backstory before it moves to the next plot point of what happens in present day. So you get a lot of flashbacks going on to show like where they were at and like how they kind of got to where they're at now. It kind of does it well with others. It kind of fumbles it with others, and it doesn't make. I mean, it just kind of furthers the plot, in my opinion, for where we're at. And then you get to the end because of the actions of one person, and for me, like the ending is kind of just what it is. I don't think it totally goes with kind of what was going on. It just kind of feels like it's the ending. It is what it is. And for me, like story wise, like the story makes sense. I get where we're going, and that's kind of the intrigue of this movie when you start it. It does a good job setting up what you're trying to guess is what's coming. And I will say, like, even on my second time rewatching it, I totally forgot this movie because it was so long ago. I didn't realize it was 2018 that I last saw this movie, because you actually introduced me to it when I first watched it. So I was kind of going into the second one with somewhat fresh eyes, just remembering bits and pieces. And I will say, like, I gave it mostly a 3 out of 5 because that intrigue of what happens next still lies within the story. And so I'll give credit where credit's due. It did keep me like hooked long enough to like, I want to finish the movie to remember what happens. So kudos to that. But otherwise, I think it's kind of meh. I don't really find any particular thing spectacular about the story. I think I find more of that in certain characters and script writing, but we'll get to that later. So I'll kind of tie that up. 3 out of 5.
Okay. So like he said, I have 3 scores I'll be reading us. Karis out of Indiana. She scores it a 4. And we also have Hayden, who, if you pay attention to our post, Hayden is one of the founding members of the OGs. Average.
Much love.
And he scores it a 5 out of 5. And this is where I'm going to be agreeing with Hayden on this story is a 5 out of 5 because every part of this movie has a story. It is not just about these people who randomly show up.
Yeah, totally.
We have a former bank robber who is masquerading as a
priest.
Yep. We have a struggling musician. We have escapees from a cult. We also have people who are being forced to leave the cult and want to be in the cult, which provides another dynamic. We have a CIA agent / father. We have struggling musician, priest. We have a veteran struggling with PTSD and drug addiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Every person here has a unique story that makes them memorable, but not just that. The motel itself has a story, and a story of the history of what it used to be, and the story of what is going on behind these walls even now, which is super fascinating. And we don't get answers to all of these stories. We don't give resolution to all of these stories. But like, for instance, the motel that was once hugely successful, had all these people visiting it, is now basically dead. One person is keeping it running. He does all of the work. This is our struggling veteran. He does all of the work, and he answers to the owners, and they're just referred to as the owners.
Yeah, that's the only reference you ever really get to them.
And we learned through the CIA guy that the rooms are bugged, and that there is a hallway behind.
A very good scene of him debugging that room. Very entertaining.
There is a hallway that runs behind all of these rooms with a two-way mirror.
Yep.
on
and a
their
speaker
walls
that you can hear what's going on in the room.
So they are filming and recording what is going on in these rooms. We never get full answers to these, but it's one of those just like rich layers to this story that like this isn't just a hotel. There is something else going on that our story doesn't need to give us those answers, but it elevates the intrigue and it gives us these story moments to move things along and give characters reason to discover other things. It's just one of the many layers of this story that is so fascinating.
So I won't do this for everything, but I'm gonna kind of I want to just throw out there some my opinion on some of the stuff that you said. So you made a point that I want to touch on, which was your thoughts about how the hotel in itself had layers, which was one of my reasons I gave it a 3 out of 5. I totally disagree in the sense that it was as deep as you claim it to be. For me, it had a layer, but I think my issue with this movie and the story was that it was only skin deep. Like it was almost too what's the word I'm thinking of? It's like the secrets were a little too like in the shadows. Like I like the ending. There's this like there's the film and like they always say, oh, there were all these people's coming. It's like, okay, I get that, but it's almost like they kept a little too much from you. It's like I wish they would have given you just a little bit more, because like you can have intrigue, you can have answers, you can have unanswered questions, and I think that's fine. I think it's better for the movie. I just think it kind of masqueraded itself as if it was deeper than what it truly was, and it kind of played off as if, oh, there's so many secrets to this hotel and what goes on, but you don't really actually hear a lot of it, except from the veteran, who he kind of shares some stories, but it's at the very end, and it almost feels a little too late that it kind of, for me, it derailed the story and what was going on. Like I have a lot of issues with the ending, but
that's not the point of the story.
What is
the point of the story? Is not the secrets to the hotel.
I know, but I'm just saying, so on that's that part why it's specifically, like to your point of like saying like there's a lot of intrigue that I didn't find the intrigue because there wasn't a lot that was holding on to me about that backstory of what was going on there, because they didn't really share anything. They kind of just said, oh, there's some stuff that happened here, but it's like almost way too vague. That's like, well, that doesn't do a lot for me because I'm more focused on the other stuff that's going on, which again, credit to those parts of the movie. It was like, I'm more intrigued on these characters right now. I don't really care what happened because you're not really giving me anything that intrigues me enough to care about what's happening. So I just wanted to, that was just that part as the defense attorney here.
You're just talking about it as somebody who's finished the movie.
Why do you say that stuff like that?
Well, because during the movie, you want to know who's on that film.
Oh,
because they keep talking about it.
I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't really get anything. It's not just who was on the film.
How would that have
everything else that had all the history behind that hotel. Like that hotel has more character than some of the other characters in this movie. But that's why it's so good. But I was still let down because again, it's way too vague with like some of the history and character of that hotel that I wish there was more to it, because I wanted to get attached to that hotel. I love the aesthetic of it. It's a beautiful like set piece overall. But again, to counteract your point of why I gave it a 3 out of 5, I just wish it was less vague with the secrets that it was keeping, because I felt like if you gave just a few more secrets, you could have had me hooked in a little bit more, and I probably would have rated it a little better. But anyways, before I go on too farther, unless you have any counterpoints, what is next?
Have you seen the Netflix documentary Voyeur?
Voyeur. I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
It is about a guy who built a hotel exclusively for the purpose of spying on the people who stayed there.
Oh yeah.
I don't need to know his motivations to know that is incredibly creepy and fascinating.
Right, but it's a documentary. It's not a movie. And I think that's a big difference there. The movie, I need something to like pull me in.
Do you? Why?
Oh, because it's fiction.
That's not the point of the movie, though. It's an element to the story,
but there's nothing behind it. It's just kind of thrown out there like, oh, there's some really weird stuff and really bad stuff that happens. Like, I'm watching a movie. When it's a docuseries and it's something that like literally happened, I'm just being given information of what literally happens. It's like, well, I view that a little differently than I view the movie. With the movie, it's like, okay, I need some more like breadcrumbs, like to really intrigue me. Like, there's a ton of movies that are like, oh, there's some evil things that happened here. It's like, yeah, I've seen that before, but like, give me something. Like, the veteran gives us some stories, but again, it's like, it's just too vague for me, like to really get attached to that.
So then the other part about that is remove this. Yeah, you just want me to move on that you can end with your point.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, we spent 16 minutes already on this one point. I want to get to the other stuff.
If we move past this and if we just say it's a basic motel whatever. There's no spy cameras. There's none of that stuff. This movie can't happen.
I disagree. I think it can.
No,
still
because
happen.
it relies on people finding these elements behind these walls. The whole thing is kicked off by John Hamm's character discovering the hotel's bugs next to his CIA bugs.
No, yeah, totally. And I love that sequence. He's one of my more favorite characters.
I don't need to know why the hotel had it bugged in order for him to start his actions.
And that's my point, is it's just to move the plot forward. And I just don't see that as a win for the movie. And you can end on a final thought and we can move on, but that's just where I stand on that. I think we just viewed it very differently. So
without it, there's no story.
Okay. And it's a take. Go ahead. What's next?
Well, next is character, which you said the hotel has more character.
It does than some of the other characters, but go ahead. You can
for all three of my scores, it's a 5 out of 5.
Wow. Okay. Go ahead and you go ahead and get into your thoughts.
Every single character, like I said, the fact that the hotel itself has character is fantastic. But since character is about the story arc, we can just pick one of these characters, and one character is so the character with the least arc is the CIA character who actually dies within the first 30 minutes of the film. So there's no arc there other than he is there for a CIA mission and discovers that someone else is listening in and is killed there.
Totally, yeah.
The cult members have a whole character arc of realizing that they were abused as children.
Yep.
And that is what drew them to this loving and accepting cult, and then realizing that they are in a cult and this isn't safe.
Right.
The musician is a struggling musician making pennies as a background singer, and is propositioned by a racist producer who tells her he can do more for her.
It was so
but
annoying.
She realizes that she doesn't need him.
Yep, exactly.
And she's on this journey, and that's where the videotape of what is happening in those hotel rooms comes in play at the end, when she realizes that she's sick of these people in power telling her what she needs to do in order to be successful when she is fantastic. We have the ex bank robber who is struggling with dementia and is
easily the best character in this film.
Oh, it's well, the performance of Jeff Bridges is fantastic.
He's great.
Struggling with dementia and trying to find the money that was buried there at the very beginning of the film.
Right.
And his character is just heartbreaking, but he's also a bad guy, and it's this weird...
It's a good anti-hero story.
Yeah,
honestly.
It's a weird dichotomy of this guy as a criminal that your heart breaks for, and at the end he is trying to do the right thing with his life.
Oh, the ending of him, can't remember his name. That's heartbreaking.
It's a beautiful character arc. And then the military veteran who throughout the movie we don't know he's a military veteran. That is the surprise ending. He says he's done some bad things. He's racked with his guilt from being a military sniper. He's just racked with what he did, the people he killed in action. They show him struggling with I believe it's heroin that he's struggling with in the film. Heroin addiction. He's working this job all by himself. He's lonely. He keeps talking to our imposter priest character.
Yeah, because he wants to be redeemed.
He wants to be redeemed, and this whole film is about being redeemed. And then towards the end, he, in a almost very Christian message, he's using what the military taught him to save people, and finds that redemption through the most unlikely of sources. And it's just incredible character arcs that all of these characters and their stories brought them to this moment where they needed each other in a beautiful way.
Yeah. All right. So I'm on not really that far on the other end of the spectrum, but Megan is. She gave it a 1, and I gave mine a 3. I mean, I kind of gave away what my thoughts were at the beginning, where, Jeff Bridges' character is easily the best character in this movie. He has a very compelling story throughout the whole movie, and I genuinely did enjoy his character arc from beginning to end. He kind of throws you for some loops. It's a bit of a roller coaster, and it's kind of fun to watch him interact after everything that happens in the movie. it's actually kind of funny at times, especially when it gets like hit over the head with a bottle. He comes back and he's like, "Listen, I get it. I'm sorry." I'm just like that. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
And then you get past him, and it's just kind of, again, kind of with the story. It's just kind of, it's there.
More
like,
richly developed characters.
Not really.
Yeah.
I didn't view that. Like, I guess I could quickly run through some. So like Don Draper's character, I only put him up there because he sets the intrigue for the movie. Like I said, his character kind of sets up this story and like the actions that. Sorry, I said Don. Me and
John
Megan,
Hamm.
Yeah, me and Megan are watching Mad Men, so I thought Don Draper. So that just kind of came
John
out.
Hamm.
Yeah, John Hamm. Yeah. He sets up the movie and the story, and so I would put him up there just because he's intriguing, but that's about it. Like I agree with you. I think he has one of the weaker story arcs in this movie because he kind of dies right away. Although, be it in a heroic way, I guess, if you want to say that.
He is the catalyst to set everything in motion.
Yeah. And then after that, you can go to, what was her name? The singer. Anyway, I get her backstory. I just don't think it was really enough to truly give her any personality. She just sings a lot in this movie, in my eyes. And she's a independent, strong.
Darlene.
Yeah, Darlene. Yep, that's right. I mean, she sings a lot. She's a good singer, but she has one kind of good like gotcha line to Chris Hemsworth at the end, but that's really about it. I don't think she really has a personality. She's a good singer, and she's coming from a tattered career, I guess, if that's how you want to put it. I don't really think that's a lot of personality for her. So she's like, she serves her purpose. She moves the story along, and I guess she helps stuff get put into motion. So again, like 3, I think that's fair. Everyone else, it's honestly kind of forgettable. Even I would even like Chris Hemsworth. Like from my second viewing, I was like, I'm not like totally sold. Like I don't think he plays a bad villain, but it's nothing that I'm gonna really remember either. Like I think you can if you're gonna give credit, give more to the actual script. But I mean, I think most of the characters are pretty forgettable, and you won't remember them because there are better versions of those in different movies like this. But Jeff Bridges is phenomenal in this movie. I think
if you're gonna make a claim like there are better versions of these
I'll get it out of the way. I
characters-
was gonna save it for final thoughts, but this movie plays as a Quentin Tarantino wannabe.
No. See, that is a final thought.
That's why I said I was gonna save it for the end.
You said there are better versions of these characters in other films, so I just want to know what those examples would be.
You're wanting a very specific.
These because you made a very specific claim.
Then sorry, that was my fault. These characters are boring, and I'll just leave it at that. Like I'm not going to remember these characters. Jeff Bridges does really good again, like phenomenal, but it is not enough to.
You're witnessing us fight over.
Yeah, this is
how it usually goes.
And I always see we're at 25 minutes, so I'm going to stop there. It's 3 out of 5. What's next? Okay. Is it music? Right, music. I can kick us off there.
Go ahead.
So Megan gave it a 4. I gave it a 3. Music was good. I mean, it fit the time period. It was kind of fun. Again, it's got that Quentin Tarantino vibe to it, where it just kind of it comes in. It's kind of lighthearted and fun, even in serious moments. And I think it served its purpose. I don't really have a lot to say more about it. I think it was good. It was all right. So, your thoughts on the music and sound?
So, Karis scored the music a 4, and Hayden also scored the music a 4. I scored the music as a 5. The original music for the film is composed by Michael Giacchino.
What else has he done? That name sounds familiar.
He did the Batman recently.
That's what I'm thinking of.
He's done a lot. He did Rogue One, I want to say.
Ooh, good movie. Pretty good score.
But the music in this movie, 5 out of 5 for me. It's fantastic. It encapsulates. It plays almost as the best of the '60s soundtrack from a. We kind of have a Motown type character. In Darlene, who I mean, she was literally a Motown character dealing with racism from producers her whole career, and then it was setting out on her own as a black woman to forge her career as a front lady. But apparently that's a boring character. I
feel like that's taking it out of context, but okay.
She actually provides a lot of the soundtrack for this film.
Yeah, she does.
Her practicing in her motel room, provides background music for John Hamm discovering these hallways and this hidden camera behind the mirror. And it's pretty fascinating to just hear that overlay.
It's used a few times throughout the movie.
Yeah,
for
it's used later when they're trying to find the money buried under the floorboards, and she's clapping along with the beat of digging up the floorboards. Is pretty clever use of music there. As well as just, it's a fantastic soundtrack background to scene to Jeff Bridges and Darlene having a conversation over a drink in a diner. Yeah. Like
they're like talking about their like the different artists that are coming out. It's like not my type of music. It's
and then towards the end when the cult leader comes in and starts playing Deep Purple, and
it's too quiet in here.
Yeah,
Rosie, go throw something on.
And how it's a drastic departure from everything that's been played in that room so far.
Totally.
So music is a 5 out of 5.
Yeah. Next up we have editing, if I'm not mistaken. You want to kick us off there?
Editing and effects?
Yes, go ahead.
I believe it's all practical effects in this film. This is another one of those. Two?
What were their scores?
Kara scored it a 4. Hayden scored it a 4, and I scored it a 5.
All right.
So editing and effects, much like the menu, this movie is broken up into chapters where each chapter kind of has a silent movie title card leading into that chapter. It's also been seen in some of Tarantino's films. It's a callback to old cinema when you used to have those title cards. And it's clever because often we will watch a character. So this movie is more about editing than special effects because it's really, it could almost be a stage drama.
Yeah. The set pieces are very, very good.
Right. Set pieces are beautiful. You believe this is a real hotel when all of this actually took place on a soundstage. But you believe even when you're standing outside that this was once a real hotel.
Mm-hmm.
But the editing, you'll watch, for example, we watch John Hamm's character for like the first 10 minutes.
Right.
And we see how he dies. Boom. And then we cut to the next chapter and we watch from a different character's perspective. We go back like an hour or so in the timeline and we accelerate forward and we see what's happening from another perspective and how that plays out. And then it'll do that again. And it does that multiple times throughout the movie. And it juggles all of these things very nicely so that it comes together in a cohesive unit at the end. And the editing of that is pretty spot on to ending, even with just a couple like classic, almost like the Pulp Fiction that inspired, not Pulp Fiction, the Tarantino movie, Pulp Fiction, the genre that inspired the story of like a shotgun blast to the face and cut next chapter. And then we don't come back to that until later to kind of leave us on that cliffhanger of what just happened.
Although it didn't cut away in the movie, it slow zoomed into the mirror that was broken because of the shotgun blast, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Because the hotel guy was behind the glass at the time, which is the next story you get to see after those events. And
we see it twice.
What was the? Well, I know we see it twice, but there wasn't one that was a cutaway, right?
Yeah.
What was the cutaway one?
Oh no, you're right. The first one it zooms in through the window
and goes to pitch black, and then it goes to the which was a good shot. I mean, it was still good. So me and Megan both gave it a 3. Once again, I mean, it was a nicely shot movie. The editing was pretty clean for the most part. They had some interesting shots in there. Nothing that really wowed me, or in my opinion, just really stood out. That I was like, oh wow, that was really memorable. I mean, it was a really well shot movie. Editing was pretty clean. Nothing that was sore to the eyes when I was watching it. I think it's a pretty easy movie to follow editing wise, and the effects were really well done. Like you said, the Pulp Fiction stuff was really well done. The effects of like the blood stuff, it was fun to watch. Again, very Pulp Fiction, and so yeah, I mean 3 out of 5. So anyway, what's up next? I just feel a tension right now, and I know he wants to like go off on me.
I just don't understand why some really well done stuff is 4 and some really well done stuff is 3.
I guess
because these, like many of these scores are supposed to...
Like 3 isn't a bad score.
No,
I know the overall score, if you were to give it all 3s, would reflect... Does it reflect bad? Well, I mean, we'll
3
get to that.
should be the bottom of good.
I see 3 as good. Like right, 3 is average.
3 is like, 3 is good. 4 is great.
Yeah, so it's
5
good.
is amazing. It's the bottom of good. 2 is when it starts.
You just said it's good.
Right. It's good.
Yeah, so
2 is when it starts to be bad.
Like, But I said 3, so it's good. Right?
But it's not great.
No. It's pretty.
But then other stuff.
Good.
Yeah. Okay.
I just don't think you like my score. And that's fine too.
No, because, in Top Gun, you said something was phenomenal and scored it a 4.
Yeah, it was really good. I think I gave my reasons as to why I demoted it there. I still think you like my score, and that's cool.
No, I'm just trying to figure out how you score these.
They're really going to see us for who the monsters we truly are.
This is why our wives don't like to listen to us talk.
I know. I'm thinking. Anyway, so that was editing. Next up is Script. I can kick this one off if you want. I gave this one. Oh, sorry. Me and Megan both gave it a 3. Again, kind of going back. The script was clean. Kind of got us to where we were going. Nothing that really stood out as bad per se. It was kind of cheeky and fun, like where it needed to be, and it didn't feel like super out of place. And I guess I bought it for the characters and who they were. I think if anyone has like the cheesier lines, it's definitely Chris Hemsworth's character, but it kind of just fits how they present him in the first place. But outside of that, I mean, again, nothing script-wise really stood out to me as like perfect dialogue. There was a couple like the ending with Jeff Bridges and some of those lines that he delivers when he can't remember his name. It's like that was very touching, but I don't think that for me elevates it to a 4. So again, a good script. You won't get lost in it. Everyone delivers their lines well, and it's a good written movie.
Karis scores the script a 4. Hayden scores the script a 5, and I scored the script a 4.
Okay.
So I love the attention to detail in this script. I don't think it's perfect. I think there are moments.
Totally. Yeah.
There are moments it's okay, and then there are moments. Most of them are the cult moments.
I can understand
the flashback of that. The script kind of fumbles a little bit.
It kind of has an okay dialogue there.
Yeah. But the just the opening the opening scene, John Hamm is the first in this motel, and he is so obnoxious that it's brilliant. Like he is being obnoxious because we find out 10 minutes later he's an undercover military agent. Yeah. And he's being so obnoxious that people hate him, so they will leave him alone and he can do what he needs to do. And it's those little attention to detail that is just like, that's what takes this movie above being a good script to being a great script, is that there's from everything from religious comments to the father.
Yeah.
Subtle racism to Darlene. Because he is masquerading as a vacuum salesman and keeps saying, I'm sure you know people in the service industry or know people who...
Oh, I totally took that as a sexist comment more than a racist comment.
This was 1963.
Well, I know that.
So either way, though, it's him kind of being...
Talking down to her.
Yeah, talking down to her. And just a little detail in the script of that, like, he makes coffee and then gives it to everybody, and then the hotel clerk comes out and is like, oh, that's 25 cents a cup, and he only pays for himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, just little details like that take it above good to being great. The story of Jeff Bridges and his story about first he's pretending to be a priest and is talking about that, and then his story about getting amnesia and how all of that plays in. There's some beautiful dialogue in this movie, and then there's some good dialogue in this movie.
I can understand that.
I don't think there's bad dialogue.
I wouldn't say that necessarily.
But like the worst it gets is good, and the best it gets is amazing. So that would average it out to a 4 for me. It was great dialogue.
It sounds fair. Next on the list is character, right?
Acting.
Sorry. Yeah, acting. Do you want to kick us off or want me to?
I'll kick this off with 3 straight 5s.
Okay.
So Karis, Hayden, and I 5s. Jeff Bridges' character alone. Jeff Bridges is amazing. Yeah, he's amazing in great. This. You believe that he doesn't just have dementia, but he is struggling.
Yeah.
Like, he breaks down and is almost in tears at scenes, can't remember his own name. It's gut-wrenching to watch. there are scenes that like, well, I for one believe that Darlene has been abused and by the system, and that she just wants to sing. Like she just wants this to be a career. She's a good-hearted person who has not been treated that way this whole time. She does an excellent job of portraying that. John Hamm's just amazing.
He's great.
There was a time when I wanted him to play Batman so bad.
Oh, I don't know if I agree with that, but I can see where you're coming from.
I think he's a great Bruce Wayne. It would just be how he could do as an action character.
Interesting. Yeah.
But like his little talk on the phone with his family while he's debugging his hotel room is it's a good scene. It's but funny. like I said earlier with his script, when he's just being abrasive for the sake of being abrasive, he's doing an amazing job. There's one of my favorite performances that I can't neglect to mention where the script might be a little bit off for him. Hemsworth as a villain I thought was fantastic. We've seen him as Thor, but he just plays this like swoony. He's definitely inspired by Manson,
right? Yeah, that's what I was
Charles
saying.
Manson.
Or Charles, yeah. Why do I keep saying it? I always get the two mixed up and I want to say
Marilyn Manson is the musician.
Yeah, he's done some crazy stuff too.
Yeah, but he's definitely inspired by Charles Manson, but he's not playing Charles Manson.
No, not at all.
But he does a good job of playing a convincing kind of hippie cult leader, and he's just sway and go with the flow, and he gets downright menacing at some scenes. And I think it's actually one of his standout performances, period, in his career. I will remember it. I remember it far more fondly than Fat Thor.
I only wish I could agree with you, because I wish I thought of Hit that before I thought of Fat Thor, and that's me saying I wish I think of him in bad times before I thought of Fat Thor, but I don't, and it makes me mad just thinking about it. So thank you for pointing that out to me. I'm angry about that now. So yeah, I'll go next. Me and Megan both gave this a 3. I completely agree with you. Jeff Bridges, there's almost like a subtlety to his performance in this role. Attribute that to the script if you want. I think it's more on him as an actor. I think he plays this character very mysteriously. You don't get the full picture, but you're kind of given a piece by piece as the story progresses. More of just the way the story has been built, where you're kind of getting beats of the story, like in sections, and like with every section, you're getting a little bit more about his character. I really like that character arc for him. And I think he did a really good job. I like how he wasn't like over the top, but he wasn't too little. It was just like a really good sweet spot for what the portrayal of his character was in the end product. I really did like that. And outside of that, I just don't really think any of the other actors were that memorable that it's anything but a 3 for me. And Jeff Bridges was good, but I don't think it's that he's enough to take a pool of characters in this movie to a 4 when it comes to the acting. I think everyone acted good. Some were kind of dragging behind more than others. Who was it that the girl from 50 Shades of Grey? You know who I'm talking about? The older
sister from the cult.
She was like a drywall for most of the movie for me. Rose was not really memorable either. Like Hemsworth was good. I mean, I think I attribute it more to the script than I do him in the role.
How much were you on your phone during this movie?
I wasn't even on my phone at all. Like I was genuinely, because again, I was intrigued.
You texted me back saying you were watching it, so you were at least on it once.
Oh, I was on it once. Oh, you've never been on your phone once during a movie. Kind yeah, I don't think any of the characters are going to be super memorable moving forward. Jeff Bridges was a good character overall, but it's not enough to bring this to a 4. So I kind of settled at a 3 out of 5. It was good. They served their purpose.
Okay, so that takes us then to the direction.
Yes. Want me to go? Okay. Once again, 3s for me and Megan. From beginning to end, you get there. I think there's again, I kind of go back to some stuff just doesn't really feel like it has a huge purpose in the bigger story, and it's kind of there just to get you to the next point.
I feel like we're on the edge of a much deeper conversation about.
We are, but I'm trying to be careful that we don't go super over an hour here, because I know we can easily go over an hour. again, we can share more in the final thoughts. I'm just trying to get to the point of our scores mostly without getting into too much detail that can be saved for the end. But you get to the end. That's kind of how I felt from beginning to end of this movie. You just kind of get there. There's enough intrigue to like keep you in, but I think more of that came from the beginning of the movie than it kind of did in the middle for me. Because at a certain point, I was kind of like, we got to the third act, and I was just like, man, that took a while. And then the third act even just kind of like, man, this third act is really dragging out here. And so like, it's a bumpy road, but it's not bad. I don't think it's an awful bumpy road. You're just kind of like, we're just kind of going and we're cruising, and it's like, it's good. You'll be intrigued by the story, and it keeps you hooked at certain parts where it's like, okay, I'll stick around. We'll keep going. I won't want to say, unless Megan says she was bored during this movie, but I mean, it's enough that I think you'll stick around upon your first watch just to kind of see how it ends. So 3 out of 5.
So Kara scored the direction a 4. Hayden scored the direction a 5, and I scored the direction a 5.
All right.
I genuinely think it's one of the best directed movies of the last couple of years.
Wow.
Juggling multiple storylines that I think handled it deftly. Kind of focusing on one character at a time, how they interact with a different character, and then going back and showing how that character arrived to that moment, and doing it all in a way that still progresses the story forward. But then there are other times here where I talk about I love the long shots where we allow actors to act for an extended period of time.
Yes.
And one of the early scenes with John Hamm discovering the hallway is almost entirely one shot walking down this hallway, looking into individual rooms, listening in on individuals in their rooms. It's a beautiful long shot down this hallway. There are a couple moments of beautiful long shots in this film. Also, the way the director incorporated the music, not just into the character itself, but into how the film was structured, was nice, using it as a cover sound for digging beneath the motel room so that other people couldn't hear it. Nice little attention to detail there. I just thought the direction of this film is on a level very few directors achieve. So there are those that do it this well, but not many.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to say. It looked like you were trying to think of something to say.
There are directors
and it's coming.
Yeah, there are directors who do this well. I especially love showing the same scene from 2 perspectives. So we'll see, like John Hamm's death scene is one of the easy ones to pick out, as
right. Yeah,
we see the death from his perspective where he bangs on a door and is shot. But then we turn around and we see it from the perspective of the person that shot
from 2 other
him.
Perspectives.
Yeah, and then later we see it from another perspective of somebody who was kind of hiding and saw
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
The other thing that brings up the lighting in this movie is beautiful. The lighting in this movie is fantastic. From lighting coming in the windows to there's a couple scenes in the parking lot. There's some scenes at night where like the background is this nice cool blue. It's raining, but the neon from the motel sign is a nice red, and we're playing off these cool blues and these reds. It's beautifully shot.
Okay. So next up is It Factor, correct?
Yes.
All right. Do you want to kick us off there?
Sure, I can kick us off.
Yeah, go for it.
Karis and Hayden both scored the It Factor as a 4, and I scored this as a 1 because I read the thing. And
interesting.
Yeah, the thing says one had little to no cultural significance, and this movie did not. So in 2018, it was overshadowed by mega blockbusters like Ready Player One from Steven Spielberg,
or
the Avengers film.
Yep, you're right.
Or Black Panther. So this movie did not have the major It Factor that I look for when scoring the It Factor.
Mm-hmm.
This is one where, like, culturally, this movie did not resonate, as you can hear from Bryce and Megan's scores. Didn't resonate with them. But so that's where I give this a 1.
Yeah, I mean, we both gave ours a 3, and I think the main reason we gave it a 3, we discussed it, was that the marketing for this movie is what makes this movie memorable at the end of the day for us. Like, I still remember the trailers and stuff and how it was marketed, even with all those other blockbusters going out. And the fact that even to this day, what is it? Is that 5 years later? 6 years later, almost.
Yeah,
Give or take. Like, even the fact that I can still remember that marketing, I think that's worthy of a 3 still. I thought that was all handled really well. Aesthetically, it just kind of fit what they were going for. But I also agree with you that culturally, this movie will absolutely be forgotten. And so I just kind of settle it there with the 3, and I'm sure that number just kind of drops over time to a 2 and then to a 1, where I'll just land with you eventually, because I don't think the marketing will stand that test of time. But as for right now, I think it's comfortably a 3.
All right.
And then,
so that leads you to, how entertained were you? This is a fun one. So why don't you kick this off?
I'd love to.
Based on your numbers, it's going to be short.
Yeah, more or less. So Megan gave it a 1. Her comments were boring. Sorry, I'm just reading verbatim what she said.
I can see it right
here. I can see it right here. No, yeah, I mean, she made the same comment I made, a Tarantino wannabe, and I gave it a 3. Or 3? Yes, a 3. Sorry, no, that's my it factor. I'm sorry. A 6 was my entertainment value. Again, on a second viewing, I think a 6 is pretty, for the way it seems like I've been rating this, pretty forgiving for the most part. Because again, I kind of went in with somewhat fresh eyes, kind of forgetting most of this movie and what had happened. I kind of remember certain story beats, but I just didn't really know what I was getting into again. And so, again, I was intrigued enough to stay there and continue watching this movie without getting super distracted by what was going on around me. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't, for the most part, just kind of like looking at my watch like, oh, we're still going. It's like the 2 hour and 30-minute runtime is way too long for what this story was trying to tell. And I know you can make the argument like, oh, well, that was time for all the stories to develop. I would agree with you if I felt the stories actually were worth that time, and I just don't feel like they truly were. But I'll give it a 6 because, again, there were beats in the movie and story plots with certain characters that were moving that along. I was like, yeah, I'm cool sticking around for the rest of this. And that's kind of how I felt on the first watch, where it was like, I think this movie's good for one watch and you'll get some enjoyment out of it, but I don't think you'll remember it after the week is over, in my opinion, for the average viewer. But that's just kind of where I stand on that.
Okay. So did you read your final scores?
They were all 3s, basically. So I'll add it up real quick. You can...
okay, so your Megan scored a 21.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mine was a 30.
And then you were a 30.
30, yep, that sounds right.
Okay. So then I have to add this one up.
I gotta add that one up. Yeah. I mean, I guess I can real quick.
Here, I got it.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Karis scored her entertainment value as a 9, which brings her total score to a 43.
Okay.
And so Karis's final thoughts on the film are, so much about this movie is stuff I wouldn't normally like, but it grabbed my attention and kept it through all the twists and turns. Everyone performs well in this movie, even John Hamm, who I don't like.
Oh, shame.
It's suspenseful. That's funny. I can say the same thing about everything you've said about this movie. It's suspenseful. It's captivating. The music keeps you engaged, and the soundtrack just encapsulates what's going on the screen, especially the moments where there is no dialogue. It builds suspense or makes you feel calm. It's intriguing. The whole thing is genius. I will definitely watch it again.
All right.
So she scored it at 43, is what I read.
Yep. And then we got Hayden as well, correct?
Yes.
His has got to be like, sound like it was close to like 40.
So Hayden scored this movie as, he also scored it, his enjoyment level was a 10 out of 10, and he scored it as a 43.
Yep, sounds right.
He says, hold on, he's got a long one. Bad Times was a great grindhouse movie that left me shocked at nearly every turn. Certain characters looked to be big players in the plot from the start, just to have those expectations subverted in an instant. John Hamm, Chris Hemsworth, Cynthia Erivo, and Jeff Bridges all do great jobs of creating beautiful characters with meaningful, intertwining relationships. I would love to see more like this from writer-director Drew Goddard in the future. One of my favorite movies! !
Well, okay.
And then I scored my entertainment value
He looks so sophisticated with his iPad here. He's just got this big list here. He's doing all the math.
Okay, so I scored my entertainment value is also a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
And that brings my total score to a 45. So for me, the varying perspectives, intelligent dialogue, and thoughtful direction had me entertained from beginning to end. So that, for me, I love this movie. Like I said, it was my favorite non-franchise movie of
2018.
Yeah.
A year with a lot of big blockbusters.
So you want to go into your final thoughts and then I'll close this out?
Yeah.
Or we can banter back and forth about the...
We're at 15 minutes, so we do have a little bit of wiggle room here,
okay,
and a chance for people to really see how we act behind the scenes. I really don't have...
The gloves are off!
Exactly. You can just tell like it's got morbid really quick. Like it's just kind of like, oh man,
I just quit talking.
Yeah, Tim quits talking when I disagree with him vehemently, but again, that's why I love talking about movies with him. There's a fun dynamic there that I enjoy, even if it makes him angry. But the truth is, I just love to make him angry.
Oh.
Yeah.
I can tell by the way you scored this.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my score kind of wraps up how I feel about this movie. 30 out of 50, correct? Yeah, it's meh. That's how I feel. Like I even struggled just rating it on this watch, because like it wasn't bad, but it wasn't really great either. It was just kind of like this middle of the road movie where it's like, yeah, one watch was nice. I'm glad I didn't go see this in theaters, but I'm not going to remember it in like 2 days probably. It's going to be a pretty forgettable movie for me. Like, again, the story's okay. And again, I'll touch on it because we did earlier, and you kind of forced my hand where I didn't really defend myself that well.
No, this is the part that I want to talk about.
Which part?
Go for it.
So again, I'll talk about it. Megan said it too, and to us, this movie just felt like someone who was a huge fan of Quentin Tarantino and tried to implement the same things that he does in his movies, and it just doesn't really do exactly what we feel makes a Tarantino movie great. I'm not saying it flops at it, but it just doesn't really do anything great. It does it, and it's not bad, but I think you're going to leave probably disappointed more than you will leave entertained in the movie.
What do you mean by the things Tarantino does?
So one easy thing I'll point out right away is just the story in itself, the idea of you're watching all these different characters and how their stories kind of intertwine with each other. And you kind of get these flashbacks. But again, I'll point out the flashbacks didn't really, in my opinion, give the characters a ton of personality. Like you see a flashback of the singer, she sings, she deals with a crappy boss. And yeah, there's like some sexism and racism implied there. But like I feel for her, but I don't think it really elevates her character in any way. It's just kind of like, okay, like you have your one beat personality. I understand. It's not great. It's not bad. It's there. The war veteran, his backstory feels very out of place because it comes at the very end, right in the middle of the climax of what's going on, and that just kind of took me out of it right away. I understand,
right at the moment you need it.
No, I think it was really out of place, and it kind of kills the momentum that you did have in whatever the finale was. And for me, it just kind of took me out of it. And yeah, he's a soldier that suffers from PTSD. He doesn't want to kill anymore. But again, that wasn't what I was hoping for. I was hoping for more of what actually happened in the hotel, which we hear a little bit of, but he always says like, "Oh, I've done some terrible
But what is
things."
this what Tarantino does? That's how you got started.
Yeah, I know. I'm going through it.
Okay.
You're trying to get stuff out. Listen.
Yeah, I am, because
I know,
you're not talking about
you
that.
don't like. I just don't think you like the answer. It's just
No, you're not talking about that.
I think Tarantino has done that better, where he takes multiple stories and brings them all together in different factions. You kind of see the bigger picture towards the end. I think he just does that way smoother and way better, to where the characters are a lot more memorable. There's a lot more personality with him. The script is also way better, and I just think it's a lot smoother. Like again, this isn't bad, but it just kind of feels like a fan of Tarantino who tried to do a Tarantino movie, and it just wasn't what Tarantino does. And again, I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't think it's great. I think it's okay. I think you can get through the movie and be like, I followed that. I don't think these characters are super memorable. Jeff Bridges, gonna be memorable. But I don't really think it. I don't think this movie's as great as you have claimed it to be. I think also the box office shows, because who's talking about this movie still afterwards.
That's why I want to do this episode. I think this movie deserves a little bit more attention.
Totally.
Whether you like it or not, this is one that some people should go out and watch and give us your scores, see what you think. Because while many people seem to think that all these things described only apply to Quentin Tarantino movies, there's actually a whole genre called Pulp Fiction.
Oh yeah, I know. I understand that.
Tarantino made popular because he does it really well.
Yeah, and so I think it's fair to set one of your standards.
The only comparisons that you can make to Tarantino in this film is that there are long scenes of extended dialogue.
That doesn't feel fair.
There are long scenes of extended dialogue and sudden jarring violence. That is the only Tarantino comparisons that you can make. And the
story beats of watching a bunch of people's stories weave together to see how the full picture is.
The story beats are not Tarantino. The story beats are that of Pulp Fiction, a genre.
And the movie by Tarantino.
No, I'm talking about the genre of Pulp Fiction, the entire popular genre made in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s of intertwining stories.
Yeah.
Often crime-related, that are shockingly violent. And this movie is a noir and Pulp Fiction movie. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying this is a genre
Is it
movie.
unfair to compare it to one of the greatest directors who have made that popular and has kind of set the bar for what those movies can achieve? Is that unfair?
So are you saying like no other superhero movie should be made because somebody made a great superhero movie?
That's a very emotional response by you, because that's not at all what I'm saying about this movie.
No, that is. You're saying no one else can make a Pulp Fiction movie because Quentin Tarantino made the Pulp Fiction movie.
Literally not what I said.
That is literally what you said.
Let me repeat what I literally said was, this movie feels like it is someone who made a Quentin Tarantino movie, just not as good. It's not great. It's okay. It's not bad. I'm not saying no one should ever make these movies again, but I am comparing it to movies that coincide with this movie based on their beats, the script, and how things play out. It plays out like a Tarantino movie. I'm not saying he shouldn't have made this movie, nor should anyone ever try to make this movie. I think it's fair, though, to compare it to someone who has made a movie like this, because that's where I get my comparison to. But even then, even if I take out the Tarantino part completely, I still watch this movie. The story is still okay. The script is still okay. The characters are still okay, but forgettable. And the acting is okay. Like, it's all still okay. I don't need to compare it to Tarantino to tell you. That's just an overarching statement I make of like, this is a Tarantino wannabe. That's okay. And guess what? That's all it is. But even taking out the Tarantino part, the movie is still just okay. It's still nothing I'm going to remember tomorrow or even moving forward. I don't even want to watch it again because there's nothing memorable.
I can tell because you hated a quality film. It is a quality film with quality performances, with quality music and quality script.
Yeah. That's your opinion, though.
Well, it's also a 75% on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. So, like, it's the majority.
Some people do like it.
It's just, it is so far above okay based on other movies that you've scored.
Based on other movies I've scored?
Yes.
I disagree.
Based on other movies that you've scored that you have scored a script.
I mean, it's definitely,
you scored the Ant-Man script one lower than this.
Yeah, and Ant-Man's pretty bad, too.
Well, you just went from okay to pretty bad. Well, so
I mean, maybe then that's the part.
I think I'm making you hate this movie the more we talk about it.
Yeah, because I really don't like this movie that much. I think it's okay. I think you can. I think
you're butthurt that it's not a Quentin Tarantino movie.
That's not at all what I think.
I don't understand.
No, that's not all I'm saying.
Like, I love a good Pulp Fiction movie, and this is a great Pulp Fiction movie.
I disagree. I don't think it's anything what Pulp Fiction is, in my opinion.
So your opinion defines a genre.
Well, does your opinion define the genre?
Because this genre would be Pulp Fiction.
Of course it's Pulp Fiction. Doesn't make it good.
But you just said you don't think it's Pulp Fiction in your opinion.
The movie. I thought you were referencing the movie.
No, I'm talking about the genre. Again, we're making a comparison to Tarantino.
It is a Pulp Fiction.
It's a Pulp Fiction
not
film.
A great one.
So I think it gets the Tarantino comparisons because it is a good one. Because there are tons. There are tons of Pulp Fiction movies that don't get the Tarantino comparison because they're trash.
Yeah, and that's why we don't talk about them. The same reason a lot of people, like me and Megan, won't talk about this movie moving forward because it's not trash, but it's not memorable.
It's from memorable performances. Jeff Bridges turns in a great performance.
He does. Agreed.
Yeah.
What are your final thoughts?
What are my final thoughts?
An hour, but you can keep going.
No, I'm done with this conversation.
And this is the true conversations that happen. And this is why we did this.
I would love to hear other people's
Totally.
feedback.
Yeah, I would love to see what other people thought about it.
Because this movie was pretty divisive in the box office.
This was a good conversation to show that divisiveness, I think, and it'll be interesting.
Yeah, because some people don't understand intertwining and delicate storylines, and
if it was
character
delicate,
depth.
it was bumpy, but it wasn't bad.
So the overall score gets us to a 36, which rates this movie as great, which clearly some of us don't agree with, but that's why the average exists.
3 good scores over there. It's not fair. It's not even.
That's why the average exists. So if you think differently,
let us know. Leave a comment. Let us know whose side you're on here. But yeah, I mean, I agree with them. I think this is one of those divisive movies that we can get a lot of good conversation here about this. I would love to hear if anyone else has seen it. Again, you don't have to compare it to a Tarantino movie. You can just compare it as a.
But that's all you've done.
Not fair, but anyway, I'll let you run away with that because we are running over an hour. But like Tim said, we'd love to see your comments and your reviews of it. Let us know what you thought, and go ahead and follow us on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram. There's a link tree.
But what? I mean, there you go. You sat in for one of our biggest movie disagreements yet.
Oh yeah, so this isn't even.
You should have heard us.
Isn't even the tip of the iceberg.
You should have heard us after the Batman when he.
Oh yeah, I want to do that one. We'll do that one.
Yeah,
for sure.
when you compared, what's his name?
Fun fact: it's only gotten slightly worse for me. So
who played the? Oh, when you compared Paul Dano to Jim Carrey, that's a moment.
That's a very out of context statement, but I'll let you run away with it because you like to do that, and it's fine. I'll let you run away with that. But anyway, like we said, go to our link tree. You can follow us. Let us know what you thought. And we will see you in the next episode.
Next time.
Yes, sir. Goodbye.